Welcome, folks. Really exciting day here. Yet another episode of the Auto Trends podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Gideon Williams. Lucas Welk is absent, called in sick. Gonna have to figure that out. Too many call in sicks, you may get slapped on the wrist. But regardless, really exciting time. Love getting back into the industry, from automakers to our parts manufacturers to what is our OEs are doing, how are they, visualizing, and what actions are they taking in the future. And coming off of a great week out at Connect with ACPN, which is, folks manufacturers are doing, how is, the cataloging and data and standardization occurring, what's happening in the marketplace, how are people looking at the future. So really exciting week, but nonetheless, as we continue to round out, the experts that we bring into the Auto Trends podcast, and really how it really offers a platform to not only come and share your insights, share your knowledge, share your expertise, your experience, but also offer it to our listeners, but offer it to the industry. I think that's the whole reason we started this back, I guess, at the beginning of the year. But without further ado, Jonathan Lampros, 30-year dealership operator, marketing expert, just a leader in strategy and advisory, CEO and co-founder of Jaksong Partners. Jonathan, would love to just welcome you to the Auto Trends podcast.
Hey, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jonathan, I know we were talking a bit just about, your background and what you do, and how you have really kind of brought a massive amount of value into the dealership world, understanding what automakers are doing, how to push and pull. And I don't know that success is always like, hey, read this one book and you're going to be successful, right? I think we get sold a dream, and sometimes, right? Remember that? Go to college and you will be successful. I know a lot of failures that actually that didn't work out very well. But my point is really want to thank you for committing your time to the Auto Trends podcast and sharing your wealth of knowledge and industry experience. But really would love to just begin to start with like your background. How did you get in the industry? Give us a little peek behind the curtain on what drives you, how you got in the industry, why is what you're doing today incredibly important?
Awesome. Well, going, 30 years ago, 1994, I was a young man wrestling, and that was, my life. I'd wrestled my whole life. I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. And so, when you're a little baby, they separate you. Either you play football or wrestle. And I was too small, so they separated me
Yeah.
to the wrestling pile. But I tore my rotator cuff, and I was coming back from that, and I detached the retina in my eye, hence the eye patch today. But so I was going, oh man, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? My brother was going to Colorado School of Mines out here in Colorado. And I said, all right, stuffed everything in a car and headed out. Well, I got out here, and about 2 weeks later, my car breaks down. I'm like, man, now what am I going to do? And so there's a car dealership around the corner. And I thought, well, I detailed cars in high school, so I could walk into there and, detail cars or whatever. So I put on a shirt and tie and I walked in, and they told me to grab a seat. And so I sat down and I waited for 6.5 hours. I'll never forget, because definitely, typically most of us that are good in this business have a little ADHD. And so it was, like hell having to wait that
Yeah.
whole time. But they told me to wait. And, back then when an adult said wait, you waited, right? So I did. And, I read all the MSRPs. I counted the tiles in the ceiling. I mean, I did everything to keep myself busy. But he finally comes out at the end of the night and he looks at me and he goes, oh my gosh, you're still here, kid? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you ever thought about selling cars? I said, no. I said, I'll pay you $1,500 a month guaranteed for the first 2 months. Like, yes, sir, let's go. And in my second month, I was the top salesperson. I'll never forget my training. My training was, we're going to take you and we're going to throw you out with the sharks. And one of two things is going to happen. you're going to get your head bit off and float to the top and we'll scoop you out, or you're going to learn how to swim with them. And I really do believe, and the reason why I bring up my wrestling background is because I believe that was like that, you were a part of a team, but you were put out on the mat to succeed on your own. And everything, all the hard work and everything you did behind the scenes was proven in that 6 minutes. And so it was the same thing. They put me out there and I just hustled and I ran and I got after it. And like I said, within 2 months, I was a top salesperson. By the time I was 21, I was a team leader, as they called it, and then moved into a desk manager. And I was a general sales manager at 25 and a GM at 33 and a managing partner at 34. And so with none other than Mr. John Elway. So it was a good
Wow.
opportunity. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And, I'll be honest, there was a lot of luck and a lot of, cojones at the time, because we had the opportunity to get a point in Greeley, Colorado in 2009. And if anybody remembers 2009, everybody always says, "Oh, wow, you were so lucky," and stuff. I was like, yeah, but there was a lot of guts to take that chance, because it
Yeah.
was with a company called Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, who was
Mm-hmm.
bankrupt at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we took the risk and put, my entire life savings and everything I had into it in a very difficult and scary time in the auto industry. And, it worked out. We sold the dealership to Asbury in 2019. And then I took another opportunity again, I thought I was getting out. I have 5 children with my high school sweetheart,
Yeah.
4 girls and a
Congrats.
boy. And so, yeah, we started young. And she's like, "Man, you missed the life of, 4 of your kids. Would you stop already?" And I thought I was going to and consult back then, but I got a call and ended up going back into another store. And we took that one and then sold it about 3.5 years later to AutoNation. And so now finally she said, "All right, look, you've got the last, 12-year-old. Would you mind just staying home?" And so when I got the next phone call that was to come to work, I said, instead of coming to work for you, I'll consult with you. And so quickly the consulting business took off. And, we definitely specialize in multiple areas because, as you said, college, as I sat through college, it was, sitting through classes and reading their books was not fun for me. But when
Yeah.
I realized back in 1998 with a little audio cassette called How to, or not, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, but The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, my mind just became wide open. And I went, oh my gosh, you can actually learn through audio. And, since then I've read 2,300 books on audio and just, whatever I wanted to know. And so I, whether it came to, financial statements, I would go find books, on how to read a financial statement and accounting and budgeting and things of those nature. So I've always been obsessed. And, I got into marketing really hardcore when the internet started to make its presence. Back in 2009, 10, 11, when I was tired of
Mm-hmm.
putting my thousands and thousands of dollars of ads into newspapers. And I'm like, man, this just doesn't make any sense. So I read every book I could find and ever since have, on advertising, on marketing, on branding, and really was able to push the dealership into, the stratosphere because of that, because we were doing things way before anybody else. But I really do believe, like you said, it's like, yeah, no, it's not a book, but it's the books that you open up. And if you do find one that you like, you get a little obsessed about it and you study it hard and you apply its principles. And that's, in all reality, after sending, now to my fourth child off to college, that's all I've
Wow.
seen them do. That's all they do
Yeah.
is just open books and study and learn and have somebody else's opinion, about them. So, I was able to do that over the last 30 years on my own.
I've always been intrigued by that. I wouldn't call myself an avid reader, but man, I like getting hooked on the things that I like. Um, I think there was a big misconception probably back at, I don't know how old, but I graduated high school in '04, but everyone was like, you get, college and all these like formal, every books are a gold mine. I mean,
Oh,
you can find most information that you need to equip your mind. Cause it's like thoughts turn into, what was it? It was like thought. What was it? Thoughts turn into feelings. Feelings turn into emotions. Emotions turn into results. Right.
right.
And so it's kind of like what you're putting into your mind. It correlates success and successful tendencies and things, and anyone can do it. Right.
Right.
I think that's kind of one thing that I hear is that the information is there, but to seek it out or seek out the right mentorship. I always think I'm a big believer in seeking the right mentorship, because there's a lot of lessons learned. And as you kind of walk through your success path, I'm almost positive there's lessons in there that, you can help the next guy avoid potentially.
I do believe mentorship is huge, but I think everybody gets this misconstrued. And we think that, hey, we need to seek out somebody who's going to sit us down and teach us and talk to us and spend a lot of time with us. And I'm not sure now, this goes back to something Tony Robbins said years ago in the 90s. I remember him saying it. He goes, you got 10 million things in your subconscious and 2,000 things in your conscious. And so
Yeah.
which one rules you? Well, your subconscious, of course. So I can't tell you exactly, who said this, but they said that everyone that you want to spend time with has no time for you or should. Those are the people you want to spend time with. So those who you seek out as mentors are probably just too busy for you. But what I would do, and I didn't realize it till years later, is I would study these people. I would study
Mhm.
their mannerisms. I would study their work. I mean, long before it was cool to talk about how people work and your daily routines and your habits and all that stuff that's come about in the last 10 years. I mean, I was studying these people. I was studying how they held a pen. I was studying how they dressed. I was studying everything about them, how they raised their families. I would ask questions incessantly and drive them nuts, right?
Mhm.
That's I was so
The
interested in.
successful traits, trying to just pull
Yes,
the
yes.
successful
And
traits.
I really didn't even know I was doing it. I was just interested in these people. And as I sold cars, I've studied one of the greatest anthropology studies of all time. I've now to date talked to over 42,000 humans for anywhere from 5 minutes to multiple days, and
Wow.
I or weeks or months as I've gotten to know them, right, years. And so what I would do is, as I decided as a very young man, hey, I'm not selling cars, I'm selling people, and so I should study people. I should know and understand people, and people would start falling into silos. And you could say, I hate saying it, but you got accountants, they just kind of all act the same, right? You got, the police officers, they all kind of act the same. You got the teachers, they all kind of act the same. But every now and then you would meet somebody who was really unique and I couldn't put into a silo. Well, that person I would study incessantly and I'd really pay attention to what made them different and what made it so there was cues about them that stood out. And I would ask
Mhm.
questions and I would get to know them and I would buy them breakfast and I would do anything I could to get, moments of their time. And I think people, are always looking for somebody to come to them and go, hey, I'm here to mentor you. And it's like, I promise you, that person's got time to mentor you, then they're probably not the right person. You're looking for the
That's
person who
interesting.
you're really going to ask questions to. You're really going to drive nuts. It could be a boss, right? Now, hopefully your
Right.
boss is really busy as well. It could be just somebody that you meet, like I said, in the grocery store or anywhere else. But they're intriguing. Their mannerisms. There's something about them that is unique and different, and it kind of fires off. Like I said, that emotional intelligence inside of you says, hey, this person's different. I've never met somebody like this before. I should find out what it is that makes them different. And that's, that to me was huge. And like I said, I learned that made my job a lot of fun. Even the people that were mean, there was a reason why they were mean.
Yeah, that's okay.
That was definitely fun.
I've never been scared of people that are mean or
Oh,
maybe
I'll tell you,
something
I
like.
was scared at one time, but
Mhm. Well, I
it
well,
took me a while to get over.
I
But yes,
you gotta navigate accordingly, right? But
yes,
it's
yes.
okay, navigate accordingly, but there's a lot of value to bring out to extract from some of those situations, and I think some people look at
Exactly.
it maybe negatively.
And you could find out like when you were interested in why they were the way they were. I'd always say that when you went on the playground as a young child, and again watching 5 of my children do this at 5 years old, as we're kindergartners or 6, we get on the playground, and if we're mean, none of the other kids will play with us. So to be mean is not a natural instinct of human
Mhm.
beings. Our natural instinct is to be kind. And so if somebody was mean, there was a reason. And so I'd always tell my people, including myself, just be as nice as you can be, and then get to the point where if they just continuously are rude or condescending or mean or whatever, you just look at them and say, hey, have I done something to offend you? Because I'm really
Mhm.
sorry if I have. And what you would do is you would draw out that, kindergartner that would go, oh, I'm being mean. If I'm being mean, you're not going to want to deal with me. And they usually would break down. 90% of the time, they'd stop and look at you and go, you know what? I'm just really sorry. I just don't like doing this. We all know how people feel about car salesmen, that attitude or whatever is out there. And they would tell you that. And then you could say, hey, look, I really completely understand. I'm just here to help you. You came to see me, allow
Disarm
me to
them.
do my best. And it was one of
Yeah,
the best things in the
disarm
world.
them.
But you had to be willing to try to understand where that person was coming from. And so, yeah, so from the meanest people to the nicest people, there was always those people that intrigued me. And those were what I call mentors. I met a gentleman the other day that was a 36-year um, vet for State Farm, and he talked to me for 3.5 hours, just in a matter of a walk over at a local high school that I was running around the track, and he was walking around it, and I slowed down. He walked up to me, and we just started talking. 3.5 hours later,
Wow.
I'm leaving, and just
Awesome.
an amazing conversation, So you never know who
Yeah.
you're going to meet and where you're going to meet them. So I would
No,
call him a mentor. I
that's the
definitely would.
truth.
Yeah.
That is the truth. Now, so Jonathan, so when we start to think about the automotive, obviously you have a very rich background. It's almost like a amazing story, right? From walking into a dealership, right? Okay, the tire blows out or whatever, and you walk into a dealership, and you had no idea that that was going to be the trajectory of your career over the next decades into ultimately as a kind of an advisor and a consultant in this space. Um, what specializations do you like when you look at auto, dealerships and auto groups? What's your high level assessment where we're at today in the industry?
Well, I think we're so for years, every other retail industry has gone to the internet, right? And we are the only ones that well, I shouldn't say we're the only ones. You also have furniture that still has huge, department stores that people go in and
Mhm.
do that. Jewelry is still kind of a pretty big retail, highline retail that you go in and try on the jewelry. So there's a certain amount of retail where, furniture, auto sales, jewelry, things of that nature, people still homes you're still going to actually visit. But we had not made that transition into the internet space like everybody else. And so what that allowed for people to do is I hate to say this, continuously give the auto business a bad name, right? When somebody
Mhm.
tells you they want you to be transparent, they want you to be fast, they want you to be convenient, you know what I mean? They're asking for things that we were just very reluctant to give. And I'll never forget in 2015 when I ordered a Domino's pizza. I think my wife and kids and everybody was gone, and I was on my way home from work, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to order a Domino's pizza," and I pulled up, and there was an app, and I used the app, and I literally was chasing the guy. Or getting to my house, racing him to my house before he got there, because I could see on the app as they were making my pizza, as my pizza was coming out of the oven, as it was getting prepared to get into delivery, as it was going to delivery, as it showed up to my door. And I went, guys, how in the world can a pizza place for a $10 product do this and we can't for a 40, 50, 60, $80,000 product? It just blew me away. And so I
Not
was
to mention
always
the other
obsessed with that.
revenue streams that it impacts.
Oh, everything, right? It was everything, as the auto business impacts 1 out of 7 humans in this country, right? And the billions of who knows what when you like you talk about parts and
Yeah.
accessories and everything else that we get into, it's insane. 1 out of 7 human beings is impacted by the auto industry. And the fact that we can't get that right was just disgusting. I really was. I was offended. And I'll be honest, I pushed my partners really hard to go down this path of devising a way to listen to the customer. And I will say we got really good at providing excellent customer service. We got world class service and incredible value was my slogan. We were able to do that. However, we still weren't able to deliver like a car deal in an hour, right? We couldn't get you in and out in an hour. We couldn't do certain things that the customer was
Walk
still
us
looking
walk us
for.
through because from our listener base, we have a variety from parts focused to auto groups to dealers to automakers. If you were to kind of just lay the foundation of a dealership and their revenue streams, how would you picture that? This is what makes the dealership operate. This is the blood that, like, is it only new car sales? You have the financing, you have the parts, you have the fixed ops, you have the service lane. Walk us through the foundations of what makes a dealership tick.
Well, it's real simple. Your fixed operations makes the dealership tick. So fixed operations, even who don't know, is your service and your parts department. If you can't be successful, and I mean successful, and this is how we always called it, you want 100% absorption, meaning all your expenses, everything was paid for by your parts and service department, and then that meant whatever you did on sales was in addition to. And the fixed operations was called fixed, and the front end was called variable because the fixed was just that. It was fixed. Every month it was reliable and dependable. If I grew at 10% this month,
Revenue
then guess
always showed up. It always
always there,
showed up.
always there, right? So the nice thing,
Ah,
Henry Ford said, I'll make more off parts and
I
service
didn't
than
know
I
that.
ever will sell in the car. And for those GMs and owners that didn't listen to that, they were just insane, right? I mean, he said it 100 years ago. Wake up, guys. Like, if you want to be a successful dealer, then you had to be successful in your parts and service departments. So if you could get to the point where it didn't matter in the economy, because variables just that, right? We see it all the time. We report auto sales every single month to the stock market, to Wall Street, to let the world know how many auto sales there, have been done. But the reality is it's because it's variable. Why don't we report, our fixed operations? We only do that quarterly like everybody else. Well, it's because they're fixed. And so if I grow 10% in my fixed operations this month, then guess what? I don't lose that 10% next month. I don't lose that 10% next year unless I do something drastically wrong. I lose the people that help me get it. I lose the customers that I retained, right? So can I lose 10% in my sales month over month? You bet I can. Can I lose it year over year? You bet I can. Can the, interest rates rising affect it? Can COVID affect it? Can 2008, 9, 10 affect it? You bet
Yeah,
it
of
can,
course.
right? But it did not affect fixed operations because they're just that. They're fixed.
So when you think of the dealership, where should you invest your time and effort and energy? I think everybody in service is trying to sell something to a dealership, right? I think, if I can just get in here, I'll expand. Where is a dealership typically focused, or where should they be focused within their dealership to ultimately be very successful?
Well, if you think about it like this, if I could touch anywhere from, depending on the size of the store, let's say 80 to 500. I mean, there's some stores that do, 6, 7, 800 ROs a day. I mean, think about that. But on an average, probably around 100, 150 ROs a day versus on the front side. I mean, I'd be lucky to get in that 20 to 25, right? Even if I am including internet leads and phone calls and whatnot.
An
And
RO, just for our
yeah,
listeners,
yeah.
what is an
Our,
RO?
it's a customer coming in for an oil change, is a work order for an oil change,
Got
for
it.
any form of service, warranty work, anything that's done in the back end in the fixed operations. So
Are,
any of those.
Are dealerships starting to evolve their service lane? Because,
Yes.
right, once a car, the data is very clear. Once a vehicle goes out of warranty, the drop off of that reoccurring service is quite high.
So
Correct? Or correct me if I'm wrong.
you're 100% correct. So there's two things now. If you're a smart dealer, these are, and when I say fixed operations, this is where you're going to be an intelligent dealer. Is one, if you're paying very close attention to that, because I don't know about you, but these cars are getting way more intelligent, and I'm not capable of working on them. There was a time when I could change an oil on a vehicle. I can't do that anymore. I mean,
Totally.
it's
Totally.
beyond me, right? And so even from changing the oil to actually fixing it, I want somebody who's been, like when you go into, the majority of my career was domestic. When you go into a domestic shop, there's a guy that has been specializing in that, line of work, in the tranny, in the engine, in the diesel, whatever it is, in the computer systems, electrical, whatever it might be. They've been specializing in that in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. That's what they've done. They know it better than anybody else. They're doctors. Okay, so they're very, very good at what they do. Taking that to an outside mechanic who doesn't know is scary, but they do it because the dealers just don't take care of the customer all the time during the warranty span. They've never shown, love, care. I had a really good friend call me up the other day and he said, Jonathan, I took my truck in, it's under warranty. I said, hey, tell me what's wrong with the check engine light. He goes, 3.5 hours later, I walk back to say, hey, what's going on with my check engine light? And the guy goes, oh, well, your supervisor's not here right now. And then as he's talking to the guy going, hey, I really need to know what's going on. I've been here for 3.5 hours. The guy finally shows back up and goes, oh, yeah, we knew it's the injector's bad on it. Well, if he could just walk up and tell you the injector's bad right then and there, he knew before he left, right? I mean, he just forgot about the customer, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever he did. Well, then he says, well, we can't get a part. We can't this. He's putting the guy off. The guy says, fine, man, just give me my truck. I'm going to get out of here. He goes, oh, give me 10 more minutes. And 10 more minutes comes back and says, oh, we'll have it done in and out. That drives
Yeah.
people insane. And so if you're incessant as the, the leaders of the organization to not let things like that happen, that guy comes back to you after his warranty's up, right? Then on the parts side, when we stop deciding that we need to charge somebody labor rates of our door rate of $175 to $225 an hour to put wheels and tires and running boards on,
Yeah.
we can start to begin or retail rates that are insane, and we won't go to the aftermarket products to make our Jeep, Wrangler really cool, or to make our Ram truck really cool, or whatever it is that we're accessorizing. I mean, I'll be honest, Acura was one of the best at it. Acura would ship you a car, and it was really, kind of base, but then they had all these wonderful accessories. They wouldn't allow you, your retail rates were like hugely discounted. Your hourly rate was half of what your door rate was. And so, you could put on these accessories, and everybody did. And it was a huge profit center. When manufacturers and dealers come together and actually decide to do that correctly, we stop sending people outside of our shop. Because once I send them outside of my shop to get wheels and tires somewhere else, now I risk sending them outside of my shop for anything else. I send
You're
them out for
probably
an oil
you're
change.
probably I would love to see the retention rate. Once you send them away, they coming back is very difficult.
Right. And when I say coming back, I mean, if I got you for warranty work, I want you for every bit of warranty work, right?
Life.
Brian Benstock is at Paragon Honda Acura, and now he is the White Plains Honda up in New York City. I mean, come on, one of the most difficult places to sell cars. The guy is #1 every year. He's just insane at what he does. Well, he decided years ago. He said that if Amazon can, pick and deliver your car, why can't I? He literally will pick up your car. You'll show up at home at 6 o'clock, right? You're done with work. His guy will show up, will pick up your car at 6:30. We'll drive it to a shop. We'll do all the maintenance, everything that needs to be done to the vehicle, and then drop it back off at your house at 6 a.m.
and just, what a differentiator.
Huge. He's a great friend and an amazing, thinker in the industry. I mean, I'll never forget when he told me, he goes, Jonathan, I was sitting there and I was trying to decide, hey, what were we going to charge for this service? And his service manager said, well, we would charge, X dollars. And his finance manager said, we'll charge X dollars. And these are pretty big numbers, if I remember. And then he says, well, then I looked at Jeff Bezos and I asked Elon Musk and I said, what would you guys charge? And I go, yeah, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And he goes, no, Jonathan, they weren't there, but I could ask them based off of what I knew. Because why? Because he reads their books. He pays attention to their, the way they run their businesses and all the information out there. And I laughed. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And he goes, what would they do? He goes, they do it for free. And I went, wow. Right. And so even though those people that surrounded him were thinking like car guys and like most of us do, he was willing to say, hey, what are the people who are the thought leaders in the world at this time? What are they doing? And so he took that model and he modeled that. And so he picks up and delivers your car for free. They work 24/7. They don't, shut their shop down. They're open 7 days a week. I mean, dealerships, hey, we're open 6 days a week to sell cars, but there's nothing against being open on Sunday to service a car, right? Jimmy was open on service on Sunday. You know what I mean? But for some reason, we don't do it, right? And this guy just said he took every rule and every model there was and threw it out the window. And that literally, to me, was a great inspiration to say, hey, if we're going to move forward, right?
That makes so much sense, though. Service lane 24/7, right? Service lane 24/7. If somebody's going to come pick up my car to just run an oil change and do a diagnostic and picks it up at 5 p.m. and then delivers it, even delivered at 2 a.m. I don't care when it comes back.
Exactly.
Holy cow. Time is money. I'm like, please take my business all day long and I'll pay a premium.
Yeah. Exactly. You know what their ROs, their average RO went from $230 to $486.
Well, now you have a personal
more than doubled his average RO, because you said it. People didn't care anymore. They were willing to pay a premium. They were willing to spend more to get more done because of the convenience. Right.
Well,
that's where our business has to go.
The customer service piece, right? I've been a lifelong customer to Discount Tire. Why? Because every time I go in there, the repairs for free, or they give me great advice. And so when I need a new set of tires, guess where I go? I'm going to Discount Tire, period. What are you talking about? I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm offended that you said that. But it's because of these years of, as a customer to them, I so appreciate it's just a great environment. I go in, I feel like they've got attention to exactly my problems. They're not overselling me. They're not underselling me. They're selling me what I need. And I've always appreciated
they will. I could have a flat tire and have not bought the tires from them and take it in and they'll fix it for me.
and they fix it.
They don't ask. They don't care. They won't ask.
And they say,
questions.
Jonathan, just think of us when you. They don't even say that.
They don't even ask.
That's the point. They don't even ask.
That's the whole point. They've trained their employees to do one thing. They look at them and they go, "Do you know how much it costs to plug a tire, guys? Do you know how much time it takes? Nothing. Just do it. Do you know how much it costs to get a new customer? A lot more than it costs to acquire a customer is hundreds of dollars. To take care of a plug in a tire is 25, maybe with the mechanic $50, right? It's nowhere near the acquisition cost of actually, going out and doing it through marketing and branding. So
I want to ask you, Jonathan, on another topic, and I'm going to change it, but you put in the Great Consolidation. Walk us through that.
So
what is the Great Consolidation?
This is where, I really do believe when we talk about parts and service is going to be huge, because you're not going to be able to consolidate that. That still needs to be convenient, needs to be fast, needs to be there. But however, the Great Consolidation is going to come from, why do we need 25 Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram dealerships within an hour of each other? I don't need them.
Every corner.
Doesn't matter. I need them maybe for parts and service to service me, sure. But I don't need them to be able to drop, ship, and deliver a vehicle like is going to be done in the future. I'm going to go online, just like you realize if I walk into Tesla and I want to buy a Tesla, they're going to tell me to go home. They're going to show me everything I want to. They're going to allow me to drive the Tesla. And then they're going to say, go home and order it from your house. You cannot order it from our IP address. They literally won't let you order it in the dealership. So what's going to happen is we continuously down that model, everybody's going to be able to buy their brand new Ford, their Mercedes, their Chrysler, whatever it is. They're going to buy it online. They're going to be able to, and there's, again, how many Tesla stores are there? I mean, within 100 miles, there might be 5. You know what I mean? I don't need 100%. A ton of them.
There's not a lot of them. Yeah.
No. And in all reality, I know that I'm going there for one reason. Tesla dealerships are not competing against each other. They're there for the convenience for the customer to look and view the product. That's it. They're there for the servicing of the product. So you'll see more of them pop up for the servicing of the customer. But yet even Tesla's trying to make it so their servicing is mobile. So they come to you. So, again, they don't need a ton of locations. So, everybody's like, well, he doesn't have it figured out. He doesn't have it figured out. Guys, he's going to figure it out, and he's going to figure it out before anybody else. And he's going to do it in such a way that all I can say to the major manufacturers is be so grateful and thankful that this guy didn't build a combustible motor, because you wouldn't be in the business anymore. He would have taken you all out. I mean, that's just as simple as it gets, right?
So if you're a dealership or an automaker, or you're somebody that's thinking about the future, you have your new car sales. So you almost want to think about it as that's kind of like this boutique experience, right? I go into Louis Vuitton to buy a purse. They sit me down, they give me champagne, they make me feel good because they know I'm about to freaking spend $5,000 on something that is a piece of leather, but at the end of the day, it's the experience. So when you think of the Great Consolidation, it's a matter of keeping that experience into a really high quality experience. But then when you look at service and the fixed part of it, the service and operations, you almost want to have a larger presence, kind of like the AutoZone model. There's one at every corner, or there's more service areas, whether you're doing mobile, whether you're having people come in, and that part of your business continues to grow. Am I following that?
You're 100% right. So when we sold our my last dealership, I saw, at the same token as my partner, he also owned multiple Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram stores. So my store was that the second time I got in was an Acura store, and we sold that to AutoNation, and then he sold 3 other Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram stores to AutoNation. And I looked at it and I said, AutoNation, I said, you have 5 dealerships within 15 minutes, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. So literally all 5 of your stores are going to be competing against one another. And it took me a long time as I analyzed and paid attention to it and asked questions. I wasn't able to talk to Mike Manley, who's the CEO and actually is a Jeep guy, came from the Jeep corporate world. But I
Mhm.
was able to ask their market president. I was able to talk to multiple of their people because I had, that in access with the selling of our store to actually ask these questions and to get, because nobody really could answer it at first. What I figured out was he was buying these for one reason. He was buying them for the fixed operations. He wanted the locations all over the place. So you assimilated getting your vehicle fixed was to go to an AutoNation store. So then it didn't matter where you were at in the country, just like Discount Tire. It doesn't matter if I'm in Tallahassee,
Yeah.
Florida, or I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Yep.
Discount Tire is the same, right? And so if he could get enough of those locations to where the fixed operation was just that, that's what he was looking for. I really do believe that the manufacturers are going to take more and more away from us as the selling of the new vehicles, and that if in fact you want to be a retailer of the future, that you must specialize in used vehicles. You must become,
Used and fixed. Used vehicles
used
and
and fixed. If you
and
want
the
to be a
fixed.
retailer, it's used. If you want to stay in business, it's fixed.
And we're talking,
Because
we're visionary, the visualizing the future, right?
right.
We're looking at what's ahead. Let me ask you this, because I know we talk on the Auto Trends, we talk about a variety of topics. We talk about OEs and where do you ever believe that the aftermarket and OE parts will somehow find a middle ground coming together? Or do you still think that OE label is a premium on what goes on your vehicle, whether you're in warranty or out of warranty?
There's a huge difference between a used customer and a new customer, and I've seen that for years. Again, through my great
Yeah.
anthropology study, I mean, there is a difference. And I'll be honest, I buy new cars, right? And when I buy a new car, I want my car worked on by, and now I don't care about ASC certified technician. I care about the Chrysler, the Acura. I want to know that they are certified. They've worked there for a long time. I want to know that Acura parts are being put on my Acura vehicle. I want Acura rims on my Acura car. I mean, I personally am like that. And guess what? There's millions just like me.
Oh, there's
And
tons.
then
I'm the
and
same
then
way.
there's those other people that are like, I want something close to new, right? I'll take the depreciation or let somebody else take the depreciation and laugh at them. And I want something close to new, right? I mean, I like the car to smell like a new car, and I love that smell. I always have and always will. That next person likes to smell kind of new. They're okay with us making it, manufacturing the smell for them. And then there's the person that just is like, hey, I just need a used car. The cars are a depreciating item. They're not an asset. I don't care. I just need it to run well. I'll drive the wheels off it. Many millionaires, many millionaires, very successful people see automobiles as that. I believe the average millionaire drives a car that's 4 years old with 62,000 miles on it, which is mind boggling, right? So there's multiple people, not depending on where they fall in the social economic status of the world, but in how they think mentally. And so there's are places for each one of them. What I do think is going to happen is that the OEMs, as they beat down these franchise laws, as they're not going to be able to completely get rid of them, but as they dilute them, they'll be able to start selling OEM parts, through the Napas, through the different, auto zones and whatnot, to actually be able to get their parts out to people on because let's just look at it. They're either going to do that, or people, or they're going to do it through Amazon and something of that nature, right?
Right.
Because to make it so you just have to buy those parts at retail pricing through the manufacturer or through the dealerships, there's no way you're going to stop that trend. So as long as they want to stay viable, they're going to have to get them out, and they're going to have to get them out to the masses.
Well, we're seeing that evolve. We're seeing that evolve. Even the OE parts contracts are starting to evolve, right? And they're evolving with time. Let me ask you a question, and I'm really curious in your take. Carvana. They obviously are there's kind of that different model, right? The kiosk level. You don't ever have to see anybody to buy a car. They've gone through kind of struggle after struggle. Everyone has their opinion. Do you think any of that would apply to today's dealerships as a competitor? Do you think there's a future disruption there? What's your take there?
I think it's already been a huge disruptor. I just
Yeah.
saw the other day that so Carvana goes bankrupt. They reorganize and they restructure, and they come back, and their average retail deal was sitting, I believe it was $7,200 a car, which is an astronomical number for a used vehicle. I mean, those are sure during COVID people could stout and claim those numbers, but to
Sure.
average that on new or used front and back, that's crazy. That's insane. And so what everybody always said about Carvana as well, they pay too much for cars, they this or that. What people are forgetting is that these companies, they're business analysts who that's become a huge degree to get in college nowadays, because you can go to work for a company and, we stop just using our gut instincts and, yes, I've got 30 years of experience, but some kid can come along and grab all the data and aggregate it and give me information that is as valuable, if not more valuable, than my 30 years. And so when people start realizing that you have these huge corporations that are aggregating this data, and they're doing it at a pace and a speed that means that they're learning for every 1 month they're in business, they're learning, 4 or 5 months worth. It's just a matter of time before they caught you, and now they're passing you. And so only 7% of the market likes to buy cars online. Well, that's true. But my children, at one time were 2, and now they're, 26,
Yeah.
24, 21. They're off going to be buying cars, on their own. And how are they going to do it? Right. And then, my 12-year-old, well, guess what? In 10 years, she's 22. And we forget that. We forget that over time, as this iPhone is, and I guess let's just call it what it is, the greatest evolution or revolution in our society was the iPhone, right?
Yeah, man.
Reading the book After Steve right now, and it's about how Apple became a trillion-dollar company but lost its soul. And it talks about how, Johnny Ives designed the beauty of it. You realize the reason why the iPhone is so great, it's not because of its accessibility, it was because how beautiful it was and how sleek and the design and everything else. And then this wonderful accessibility came through it. And so because of that, people don't realize is that, like, as we constantly evolve, right, there's going to be companies that come out and do things that are gorgeous and beautiful, like these beautiful towers that are vending machines for automobiles.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
stick out from miles and miles and miles around. I'm driving down I-25 just the other day, and I can see the Carvana, tower,
Carvana.
their vending machine sticking out. And it's like, guys, you just don't get rid of that, right? It just doesn't disappear. Just like the iPhone has competitors, they haven't really changed since Johnny Ives designed it, so many years ago, and he's gone from the company, yet they'll still live on. Somebody else will come along and
Yeah,
actually,
they
get
pick it
them.
up. Yeah, they
But
pick it up.
I
Yeah,
just think that
I read the book.
Carvana's
I
there.
read the book on Steve Jobs. That I
Yep.
read, that was an incredible book. And whether you like the guy or don't, everyone can make their own opinion, and I'll have mine. But it was incredible mind.
You'll really
A little
enjoy
bit of a
After
nut.
Steve.
I never read that.
It's yeah, it just came out a couple months ago, and it's talking about, it starts as he dies, and it goes on from that point, and how, what happened with Apple and where it's going and stuff. But
Well, yeah.
it's really interesting. But no, I think that was one of the greatest revolutions. And so think about it now. I can order a car from Carvana with my phone sitting in the waiting room, at a car dealership.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right, though. When you think of the Great Consolidation, I really do believe you have to think of parts and service.
Yes.
And it had fixed, right? I actually did not know where the name fixed came from. I'll be perfectly honest. It would make sense. Once it shows up on your P&L every month, every
Yep.
quarter,
It's
every
just
year.
fixed.
If you lose it, there's something you did wrong, or something
Yep.
happened in the marketplace that just jolted it.
Or even to gain it, you had to do a lot to gain it. Like
Yeah.
a couple percentage points in fixed is huge, right? Variable, like I said, it's just that, it's variable, and that's why we called it variables, because it was up and down all around. You never knew, right? So it really
That's
does vary.
incredible.
Mhm.
Well, Jonathan, I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about Jackson, and am I saying that right, Jackson?
Yep, Jaksong
Yeah,
Partners. Yeah.
Jackson Partners. I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you guys do, with our industry, and just share a little bit about that, and how, people, if they're struggling in certain areas, or they can help leverage your successes and failures. And certainly successes don't ever come with failures. And they can utilize and leverage your expertise and what you do and how you handle it. Talk a little bit about that, and how you kind of bring market value to them, and ultimately driving a better dealership, or a better dealerships, et cetera.
Well, I appreciate that. So, how this evolved is, like I said, I was obsessed with reading and educating myself. And I really do believe I'm kind of unique in that way. But what happened in 2008, 9, 10 is we ran a lot of the maybe the old timers, a lot of people that were in the business, disappeared and went away. And today I deal with a lot of people that are, I want to say, we're not post COVID, but post 2011, right? So they'd never really seen a difficult time in the auto industry. When I got in the 90s, 2001 we went through the bust. 2004 was the first time gas went to $4 a gallon, and people all traded their SUVs and trucks for cars, and then they came back, got rid of their cars for SUVs. And then
Yeah.
2008 we went to we went through the Great Recession. Even in 2015, I'll never forget being in oil country and gas, dropping to $1 a gallon, and all those guys going bust. And then we had COVID, and now the interest rates. Well, COVID lasted pretty short, but then it became really good. But I think that was as the biggest, probably one of the biggest detriments out there. And what happened is we had a lot of people that got into business in 14 and 15, and they got promoted way faster than I've ever seen in my career. And it took me 15 years to get to that point of being a general manager, and people have been in the business 5 or 6 years. All of a sudden, they're GMs. And more power to them. I think that's great, except for the education has never been there. And the only way that you got educated before was by, paying very close attention, asking the right questions, understanding and learning. And without that, no GMU or NADA university is going to give you the education you need to be a successful, owner, general manager, and such. So as I got into the consulting side, I saw very quickly that there was this huge gaping hole, and it was just obvious. Like somebody, I mean, no, well, I shouldn't say this. Any sales organization, this is what happens. You have somebody who was a good salesperson who becomes a good manager. And I mean manager, I use that word loosely because they become a good sales manager, meaning they can close a deal, they can desk a deal, they can talk to a customer. And all of a sudden they become a general sales manager. And now all of a sudden they're in charge of inventories and things of this such. And they go, maybe I don't quite know this well, but yet I'm a good desker. I can still close deals. I can motivate people. I can have a sales meeting and such. And so I continue to progress. And next thing I know, I'm a general manager, and my job completely changes. It no longer matters if I can close a deal. I always say a good
Right.
businessman or woman will be far more successful as a general manager and an owner than a good salesperson was, right? You need to get that out of your mind. And so what I did is everybody's looking for profits, right? We all need profits. And so profits is an acronym at Jaksong. And we use that term as this: profits, P is process. You need process evaluation, implementation, and execution. I really believe that accountability is far more important in any process than anything else. And people forget that. So within process, we have GPA, which is goal, plan, accountability, setting a goal, devising the plan, and then holding people relentlessly accountable to that is the only way that a process actually gets implemented and executed accordingly. R is for recruiting. We say we recruit for success. We don't hire for failure. We're done. I mean, the day and age of just putting an ad on Indeed or wherever, or Craigslist, and hoping to get people is insane. Pick up the phone, call the next dealership, your rival, and say, who's the best salesperson on the floor? Who can I talk to that's going to take the best care of me? That person answers the phone and said, hey, I hear you're the best, right? My name's Jonathan. I'm the general manager over at so and so. I'd love for you to come work for me. I'm sure you're not going to, but you know what? Would you mind giving me your information? Blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm going to keep in touch with you. And so the day you get sick and tired of working there, I'm going to be the guy you take to.
Absolutely.
And just like a draft board, I'm going to put that person on my draft board. And I'm going to, because we all think about the draft just happening the other day. They've been watching and studying those kids since they were in high school, waiting for 3, 4, 5 years to get that person on their team, right? And so I really do believe it takes time and effort and energy. I'm doing the same thing in all different types of industries. I send in an email. I look for the person who responds the best as I secret shop. They'll give me their cell phone. They'll give me all their information. And then I begin to communicate with them why and how and when. And then when those people, like I said, get sick and tired of where they're at, I'm the person that they go talk to, right? So the O is for optimizing fixed operations, right? I'm huge in that, right? Because the GMs all seem to come from the sales side, and the fixed is just the back end, and they don't know what they're talking about. And like, if you want to be successful, you better be successful in your fixed operations, right? So that becomes huge. F is for financial statement analysis. None of us, or I should say, the majority of us didn't go to business school, right? We don't have MBAs. We don't know what we're talking about when it comes to a financial statement. How can you operate a business and not read a financial statement? So I had a good mentor, a guy that I would ask insane questions about. And he actually was a wholesaler that come to the dealership, was good friends with an owner I worked for. And he says to me, tells me one time, he goes, you know, that drawer in Danny's office, that's the second drawer from the bottom. That's where he keeps all the financial statements. What I want you to do is go in there and grab an old one and make a copy of it. And I want you to study it until it starts making sense. Now, he didn't teach me what was in that financial statement. He just said, study it till it starts making sense. That study took years because if
Of
you've ever
course.
seen one, they're very confusing. So it's important that somebody teaches you actually how to, look at a financial statement. Is for inventory. We're going to stock for actual what we sell. We're going to use and aggregate the data. Viato started this years ago. Viato's kind of fallen off their game of late, but in the last couple of years, you get to the point where you're so successful, you really don't. But you take that data, you take that information, you aggregate it, you buy the cars that you're successful at. You stop just filling holes on the lot. I'm so tired of that. And then T is for targeted marketing, branding, and advertising. We have to, like, the spray and pray method is over. We can't just shotgun it out and hope to hit somebody. We need to be very specific. When it comes to social media, there's huge opportunity here, and 90% of it's free. People are scared to get on the camera. People are scared to use what's at their fingertips. And if you don't, you're just going to get eaten alive, and you probably already are if you aren't there in that space right now. And then as S is for strategizing successfully your all the rest of these, all your profits, right? You want to make sure that you're using successful strategies in order to hit every single one of these things every single day. So there's 6 of them, and I say, hey, you can focus on one every single day, but you need to make sure, or all of them every day, and give it a lot of time. I don't care how you do it, but those are the 6 areas that if you want to be a successful dealer today, you have to make sure that you're doing. And so what we did is we've designed very specific processes around that take people through an education that shows them exactly how to be successful within an organization. And we look for specifically for the younger general managers, the younger owners in the business that were really good salespeople that became great sales managers that are horrible general managers.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. They haven't been given the education, which is just unfair to them because we're setting them up for failure. And so there's like for years I had a general manager that was in a dealership, and he'd been there for 25, 30 years. I mean, the owners have been there for 25, 30, 40 years, right? And all those guys have retired or passed away, or gotten out of the industry. And what we're seeing is just young person after young person after young person, which again is great. More power to you, as long as you have the education that you need to be successful. Otherwise, you're just hurting the other 100 people that work for you within the dealership. So get
That's
the
awesome.
education.
That's awesome. Jonathan, I know as we're coming up on time here, but I am very just honored and thankful to have you on. Your insights, your experience, your path, it just oozes out. And I would say any young, dealer, operator, or even young person in the business, I think you are a massive value to their development. And clearly you have a passion for it. Clearly you have a love for it, because or else you wouldn't be here, or you probably wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So I want to first off just thank you for coming on and committing your time. How best can people in the industry connect with you and reach out to you? How best can they get a hold of you?
Probably the easiest way, it's Jonathan Lampros, JonathanLampros on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or Jaksong Partners, through our email site, cell phone 303-995-0421. Any one of those, all that information is widely available. I get very heavily involved with every single one of my clients. I do have a team of people that assist and help me, but I only take on as many clients as I personally can help. So I don't have hundreds of people right now. I'm only working with 56 dealers, and as we get people onto a point where I'm able to basically end the contract, we know they're successful, and we just touch in once a month. I'm able to take on a new dealer. because I don't believe in, like I said, I'm not trying to pass anybody off to anybody that doesn't have the experience, doesn't have the ability to assist and to help at the high level that I can. So it's really critical, and important to me that that's what's being done. But yes, I'm just reach out to me through my cell phone or through any of my email or through my social media sites. Would be more than glad to help out.
Awesome. Yeah. And also, if to our listeners, if you struggle with that and you need to be connected with Jonathan Lampros, reach out to us. Always, we happy to do the connection. We do them all the time. This is really why we launched this platform. So as always, folks, Jaksong Partners CEO Jonathan Lampros, 30-year guy in the industry, really a marketing expert, a leader in strategy and advisory. Please reach out to him. And as always, with the Auto Trends podcast, the best way to support our platform is to like and subscribe. If you don't like some of the things we're doing, please let us know. We are totally open-minded on this, but truly here for the industry, the voice of the industry. We are the Auto Trends podcast.